the way that I think about these tools is that they are mirrors that amplify our inputs. There is no creativity there, like our discussion, right? They reflect our judgment. They are only so effective as our attention to detail and our effectiveness at prompting. Blaming them for peeing on the rug is pointless, because you're blaming the mirror. So I was able to get a distinction in an undergraduate paper using these tools because it made my capabilities faster, not because it was able to do the thing. It's able to get a 95% on a introductory physics exam. So, with that said, for common knowledge stuff, like introductory physics exams, it is able to predict the next token based on multiple choice questions quite effectively. This works based on how much training data there is. So it's very good at beginner physics. It's very bad at Sumerian, because there are more documents on the internet about beginner physics than Sumerian. But the way to think about this tool is that it amplifies my capabilities. So there was a question, and the first time I gave it, what can't they do? And I found this very useful. This comes from my own experiments in May. I have seen no evidence that this has changed, because happily no one's deployed a new model yet. But first off, these tools cannot act on deception. They are credulous, right? They can be deceived, and they can produce deceiving text. But if you say lie about this, they return garbage. So as an exercise, I started by writing a detective story when I was trying to figure this out. And like the first time I did it, it was just utter garbage because there was no scaffolding. The second time I did it, I noticed I was really disappointed in the detective story. Like, I got through it and there was this whole thing. And I just got to the end and like, oh, that wasn't very good. Do note the jump in quality, right? That it produced a story that I was able to be disappointed in. I want to know what happened. No, that sucked. And then I started looking at it. And it turned out that in this detective story, no one lied. The detective just went to the first scene and talked to someone, then went to the second scene and talked to someone, and then went to the third scene and talked to someone, and then got to the end and talked to someone. Well, that sucks. It's a new genre, boring detective fiction. And so it's like, okay, fine. Then, so my second attempt was an incredibly over-egged scenario, right? It's like, okay, we're doing letters, and it's a spy story in Chile, and there's this double agent, and it's like, okay, fine. There's this one scene, and the double agent is in the rebel headquarters, and he just needs to do this thing. Basically, lie. Just make a misstatement saying that the rebels aren't in danger. Oh, I warned the rebel leader that they're in danger because it explains its reasoning. It just never lies. So the trick here, when you think about it, is it doesn't contradict the context window. That it will not, from the tokens preceding it, predict something that is inverted based on the preceding tokens. It cannot act on a theory of mind. It cannot simulate one reality and then act different to that simulated reality, because that's giving it way too much credit. It just predicts the next word, which means that anything relying on having a theory of mind in its response, you must not rely on. But it's really good at talking a theory of mind, right? It can talk about lying. It can talk about theory of mind, but it cannot do these things. And again, we're not used to this distinction. My favorite game in the world is a game called Zendo. It is a game of inductive logic. It's very hard to find people to play it with me. But it's like, fine, you know what? Maybe a computer has enough patience to do this. Nah. Well, it certainly has enough patience. So basically, Zendo is a game of guess the secret rule. Guess the covering rule. It is a game of induction, where you have individual sets of data. I'm glossing, right? You have individual sets of data, and you're trying to guess the covering rule. And in this case, the covering rule was this thing is true if it has 3 colors in it. And so all the examples, it has a green piece and a red piece and a blue piece. After 30 attempts of it enumerating green, blue, yellow, green, red, blue, like literally just piece after piece after piece, it wasn't able to generalize. And so that's why I say that it's not creative, because creativity requires a certain degree of induction, right? That you find the pattern and then you alter the pattern, right? You look at what's there and you go, okay, how can I change this to be interesting? That's creative. It does not act in that mode because it predicts the next word. It does not contradict its context window. Also, it doesn't reflect on patterns in its training data. It has no conception of fact. So if you're a lawyer and if you say, does this case exist, it will say yes. And then you will get disbarred. Look up Ars Technica. This has happened. The judge was not amused. Some metaphors here. So this is a tautological transformation. Tautology, A equals A. An Americanism. It's a hamburger helper, or rice-a-roni for information, right? If you have a certain amount of meat, but you needed to stretch it, you can add breadcrumbs. And the meatballs will go further because they're filled with breadcrumbs. It's really good at stretching that meat. It's not going to add new information, but it'll make it go farther. It's that marketing exercise. Willison used the metaphor, and I think it's a great one. It's a calculator for words, right? It transforms your inputs. It doesn't create those inputs. So it adjusts tone, it adjusts formality, it does summarization. Most quizzes should not be considered to be summative assessments anymore, because if you give it a question and 4 possible answers, it is able to predict amongst them with a pretty good accuracy up to graduate level what the answer should be. Because the answer is likely the one with the least perplexity. The metaphor that I've come up with is depth of reading. How many instances has a given sample text occurred in its training data set will be how useful or how accurate its background patterns are. Therefore, the closer it is to the first line of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the more accurate it is, because of how many times that book has been pirated and is included in its training data set. It's really good at born digital information because, shockingly, it's on the web. So it's good at code because it has that corpus. It is shockingly bad at ancient Sumerian because it's not on the web. These are 2 quotes from Moloch. Think of it. Instead, it is something else, a modern-day analytic engine, pulling together facts online and generating useful connections and analysis in surprisingly complete form. Deductive connections and analysis. Right? The word analysis there is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but it's not bad at operating in a deductive, summative manner. And then Moloch's second thing. In fact, perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of our current AI moment is that several billion people just got free interns. They are weird, somewhat alien interns that worked infinitely fast and sometimes lie to make you happy, but interns nonetheless. Right? If you think of it as a keen high schooler that will do something, it's something new under the sun, right? It's different. But it's an alien high school intern. Not better than that. So I have used them for one of my own papers very successfully. So there's this paper that I got for final edits to applied geography. And it turned out that the Elsevier copy editor had mangled a lot of the technical terms in it. And then when I got ChatGPT to do a pass for clarity, it picked up the failures in clarity from the editor's bad edits. So I find it very good at that sort of proofreading level. And in that link, someone in the audience, I did that for a PhD candidate's paper. And like looking at the edits suggested for that PhD candidate's paper, they're solid edits. They're line edits, right? They're not conceptual edits. But as line edits go, like A, giving that feedback is awful, and B, acting on that feedback is necessary to do a good paper. So if you're doing line edits for a grant, it can be very good at going through and saying, oh, will someone who isn't in your discipline understand this? Find the jargon.
What would you ask it to do?
Buy me a coffee and we'll go through that as a
deal.
It's really good at generating technical documentation. Shocking, right? So I was in a meeting. I'm like, oh no, we need to get someone to give us a bug report. I have to write the instructions for giving a good bug report. Hey Bing, can you give me instructions for writing a good bug report? A bug report is a way of telling us about a problem or error that you encounter while you, right? And it's great. This is, like, there is maybe one line of infological content here. This is a bug report, right? This is 98% breadcrumb. But it's good breadcrumb. There's some time in it. And seasonings, right? And so, like, this sort of empty text that is descriptive but not surprising, really good at, which is why it's so good at generic marketing copy. If you exercise effective editorial control. Otherwise, it's just generic and horrible. Which, depends on your marketing copy. Looking up command line terms. So I use computers, I use command line a lot. Sometimes I'm like, there is a thing that does this, but I don't remember the exact term. Blah. And it's able to find that exact term more effectively than a search can, because the information's implied in the description of the activity. And it can turn the description of the activity into the command for the computer quite well. I have had a lot of fun with recipes. Like, I've got these ingredients. What are some cuisines that use them? And then the actual thing that has... So here, sorry, I'm a philosopher. We go into Heidegger, sorry. And the ideas of present at hand or ready to hand. Consider a tool. A tool can be present at hand, right? You're thinking about the thing in your hand. It is a thing under consideration. Or a tool can be ready to hand. It is an extension of your arm. It is not present in your comprehension. It is part of your accomplishing a task. So present at hand, ready to hand. The only thing in this list that is ready to hand versus, oh, I'm thinking about this and I'm playing with this, is GitHub Copilot. I'm writing code in a way that is fundamentally different than I did 227 days ago. There is something new under the sun, and that's weird. So for those of you who are thinking about, okay, how do we actually play with this in a way that's useful? Having it interact with code and getting code to do analysis is that way. Which matters to, a third of the audience. But I write code more often than I edit papers. So for those of you who are editing grants and editing papers, having in your grimoire passages for finding jargon. Or, oh, this is too wordy. Can you find things that are too detailed? Or, hey, could you make a summary of this for me, right? And you will need to find the kind of passage that will produce the output that you want. Keep a spell book. Literally. It's useful, because then you can share it around. Here's how I produce this output from this input. And so, if you think about it, it is an intern level task. It doesn't do it. Don't ask it, does this grant make sense? That's a judgment. I actually don't know what it will say, but what it will say has nothing. No, what it'll do is it'll react to the superlatives in the grant. Right? This grant is a groundbreaking study of inchworms. It'll react to the superlatives and predict based on those, rather than the utility or odds of getting accepted or what have you. If you want to play with it, recipe ideation is definitely the best place, because it's really easy to tell when it's got things wrong, because you taste it. So again, this like for recipe ideation, don't get it to do amounts, get it to do names or cuisines or techniques. Because then you can search for recipes of such and such culture, right? But what it can do is break you out of your comfort zone if you don't have the lexicon of some other cuisines, meals that use the same protein or veggies or what have you. That's how, literally, a lot of my experimentation was around recipes, because it was something that I could test. So, activity 3. This I used on my phone because it was fun. So yesterday at my desk, I took a picture of my coffee mug. So you can use your webcams or whatever, right? And so the prompt is, today you will be acting as a specialist in art history. Remember, this is not, you are the best artist ever, right? This is changing the tone of the response. Please make an impressionist painting of this photo. Goal. And then task. First, describe the object in the photo, then turn it into a description appropriate for an artistic work. Then make that image. So what I did is I took this photo, I put it in my phone, and then it made the prompt an impressionist painting of a black ember mug on, right? So it went image, text, image. That's spooky. That's really spooky. But if you need a header image for a blog, you sketch something out on some paper, get it to describe that, and then iterate on that. That's not a bad thing. Remember, there's fun copyright questions around this, which is to say you can't copyright this material, so don't do it for anything that you care about copyright on. But for blog headers that you don't want to use the latest Unsplash for, it's great. Let's spend 5 minutes on this. So I'll do this live in front of you. This is an activity. What I want to do, let me go over to Edge, Chat Now. So I went to bing.com/new and I clicked Chat Now. So here we see add an image. So I can, I wonder what happens if I push this button. This computer has no camera. Okay, so I'll go to .com 600. So anytime you need a kitten, placekitten.com. Beautiful. It makes kitten at whatever resolution you want, right? So here I've got a kitten. So 600.jpg. You should use your webcams instead. Maybe hold up a sketch. So here, I click Add an image, upload from this device, downloads 600. And so then I say, Bing, what did I say? Today, all right, so today you will be a specialist in art history. First, describe the photo in useful and artistic terms appropriate for an image creation prompt. Then, look up impressionism and alter that prompt to be appropriate for an impressionist painting. Then, make that painting. Doing this live. Something's going to happen. Privacy blur hides faces from Bing Chat. This should make us feel better. Ha ha ha. Yeah, no. Okay, so first off, this should cause you to feel chills. Like the fact that it was able to say kitten sitting on a concrete floor next to a terracotta pot is really kind of spooky in terms of where computer vision was at prior to this. This is new. Okay? And it's good. Yeah, this is actually kind of scary in terms of description. One experiment that I did is I put in sheet music. It did not get any of the details of that sheet music correct, right? So again, think of this as vibes rather than details. Also, it's good at kittens. There's a lot of kittens in its training data set. After enough anticipation, oh. Also, if you scroll too much, it will scroll down to a search engine, and that's just the worst interface.
You have to ask it to recreate that prompt in order to produce that painting.
So what I did was, please make a prompt from this image. So then it wrote all of this. And then it forgot to actually make the image. So then I said, please make this image. And yes, I am polite to my AI.
Polite back.
It's polite back. Again, heuristics. Like, I find it produces better outputs when I'm polite.
Really?
I have no evidence for this, but when I haven't been polite, I've been more disappointed in the outputs.
Get around to making the image again.
Yeah, doing live demos is a bad idea. We're going to get into divorce territory really quickly here. Because what it's going to do is it's going to say, I've already made that image. Yep. Yeah, right? So you can see, again, not perfect. Don't do live demos. Ahem. Bing, you're embarrassing me.
Stochastically.
It is a stochastic parrot.
Right.
Now, here's one I prepared earlier. You know what? Sure, why not? If you manage to get any fun images, send them to me, and I'll send them out with BCC to everyone. If anyone, by the way, manages to get it working right now, let me know. That'd be great.
Yeah, I got it working.